British concert pianist Lucy Parham came to the public's attention in 1984 when she won the piano class of the BBC Young Musician of the Year, and she's gone on to develop a very impressive career, playing with all the major orchestras and conductors, and she has a very busy schedule, so I'm delighted that she's taken the time today here at the Fazioli Room at Jaques Pianos for one of my classical conversations. Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you.
Lovely to talk to you.
Isn't this wonderful here?
It is, it's beautiful, isn't it? So many pianos.
Beautiful.
I'd like to start by talking about your musical education and how did you start playing the piano? Why did you start? What was the catalyst and how old were you?
Well, I was 6 when I started playing the piano, and my mum was a really keen amateur pianist, and she used to play at night when I was asleep, and I remember the sound of Chopin nocturnes and things wafting up, from downstairs. We always had music on in our house. There were no professional musicians, but there was music on. So I suppose I sort of grew up with it, and like lots of kind of middle-class kids, piano lessons, and I seemed to have some sort of aptitude for it, so I kept going.
Absolutely. It's quite an inspiration. Yeah. And what about teachers? Which teacher do you think was probably the most influential on your musical development, would you say?
I think there's no doubt about that. That was Joan Havel. I mean, she is an extraordinary teacher. She had many wonderful students, but she put hours and hours of her time into me, from the age of 16 to 24. I'd never met anybody like her before.
And you went to her at 16?
I went to her at 16.
Right.
And
so what about before that?
Before that, I was having lessons at the Royal Academy of Music with a teacher called Jean Anderson. And before that, I was learning locally in my hometown of Godalming. And so there was a kind of progression, as there always is. And then I found Joan when I was 16, and she had a great belief in me. And I think for any child, when you meet someone that has a belief in you and says, you can really do this,
yes,
then you want to work. And I remember I was at a school in Petersfield, and I used to commute up to her house in Ealing. I took bunt off school for the whole day, and I used to love it, part of the excitement.
Yes, I bet.
It was kind of just being on the train on my own and going out to Ealing, and all my friends were very jealous. And she would talk for hours beforehand, and she'd give me hours and hours of help. And it was a really happy time. I don't think I've ever practiced that hard, actually,
I can imagine. Well, once you find someone that inspirational, you just work and work.
But then I had schoolwork to do, I was doing A-levels, and so I had to get up. I was like a driven person, 5:30 in the morning, and practice, and late at night. And I was doing my A-levels in 1 year as well, which was quite a tight deadline.
There was a lot to do.
So there was a lot to do. But, it was what I wanted to do, so you do it, don't you?
That's right.
You want to do it.
So how about developing your technique? Did you learn the difficulties in each piece, or did you practice lots of Czernies, Hanons? Were you a study person?
Do you know, technique it's quite a big issue for me, because I think I didn't do nearly enough of it when I was young, and I really regret that I was not pushed much harder. And it's something that I do with all my pupils. They have to do, from the age of 10, they're doing the Dognani exercises, the Brahms studies, and all this sort of thing. And nobody ever really gave me any technique. So there I was at 16 with a sort of a musical voice, but no ability to convey it. I think is probably because I didn't really have the tools to do it. And it's quite hard at that age to go back and start again with technique. And it's a bit depressing. But when I went to Joan, she made a lot of technical exercises out of, we take difficult bits out of concertos and octaves of this and thirds in that, and she'd make me do all the double thirds scales and studies, and so I've really worked hard at it. But by the age of all your fingers are fairly fully formed, so it's
not
just
pliable.
So it's difficult, and it's something I wish I could do a career over keyboard with more natural speed than I do. So I always have to work really hard at it. It's never come naturally to me.
Right, but however, you still won the piano class of the BBC Young Musician of the Year.
I did. It was a miracle.
And how do you think this changed and shaped your career? It must have been quite an important moment in your career development.
I think it was, because I really had never imagined that I would win that. and it was very exciting. I mean, I only played one concerto, a couple of recital pieces, and suddenly, you know, people, it was a lot of wonderful amateur orchestras and youth orchestras, and can you play the Greek and can you play the Tchaikovsky? And so I was really working hard to learn all this at high speed, and I'm not a fast learner. It was a really good learning curve.
Yes, lots of opportunities.
Really lots of opportunities, and it's about, I mean, I work a lot now with actors, and it's sort of the equivalent of actors doing rep,
yes,
which we don't really have, or they don't really have now. It's a chance to try out these pieces, learn them, and do them somewhere where the pressure is not as great. Having said that, my very first performance of the Greek concerto was at the Royal Festival Hall with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra.
Which is quite a lot of pressure.
Which that is a huge amount of pressure. You know, you not to even have one run through with another orchestra, with maybe an amateur orchestra or something. That was huge pressure, biggest tour, biggest orchestra. But you know, you've got to take what life throws at you.
Yes.
And I probably wouldn't do it now. I think once it's slightly more, I was never fearless, but you don't. I think when you're 16, 17, 18, you're so thrilled to have the opportunity. You don't think about the consequences.
No.
You just do it, don't you?
So, do you feel then that competitions can still establish a concert pianist? Do you feel that they're important now, or are they obsolete and have we moved on?
It's a really difficult question, isn't it? Because for some people, you know, I've sat on juries for competitions, and I commentary for leads and things, and I remember all 6 pianists from both times I did this. That's 12 pianists, and I think only one of them I really hear of now. And I think when I was growing up, Leeds was, if you were in the finals of Leeds, you were guaranteed an international career.
That's right, yes.
And I'm not saying this against Leeds, because I think all competitions now have been slightly diluted because there are so many of them.
Yes, it's changed a bit.
It's changed.
I think
it has changed. And I think also because we live in such a more immediate age. I mean, like the time that I was doing Young Musician of the Year, that was there were only 4 channels, weren't there? So, and now you can watch everything on television, and so it's become more diluted. Having said that, I do think that people can make a career from a competition, and for many people, that's the only chance they're going to get to play for promoters.
Yes.
To be heard by people, and I think, you know, there's a big anti-competition lobby. I think that there's so many people at music college studying. How else are people going to get a chance to be heard?
To be heard.
Especially by promoters and agents.
It has established people like Daniel Trifonov.
Oh my God, yes. He's a big fancy artist as well.
He is indeed.
Yes, it has, absolutely.
So it still does.
It still does. Yeah. Although I suppose many people would argue that he would have been established anyway. So I don't know. I mean, my pupils, if they do a competition, I think also it's something to work for. It's an aim. It's an aim in itself. You know, to get pieces ready to play. To the practice. I mean, all this is good. So, but I think you always need something to work for afterwards. The competition should never be the be-all, end-all and deadline, I think.
Yeah. Now, you've got, changing the subject a while, you've got a special connection with the music of Robert Schumann. So, what was it that first attracted you to his music? And what do you particularly enjoy playing, which pieces?
Do you know, since I was a small child, I just always loved his music. And some sort of quite weird pieces that I love of his music when I was small, you know. I remember hearing some of the symphonies and things like that. I can't really tell you. All that I can say, I'm sure lots of people who are watching this will think I was completely mad. I sort of feel I understand the voice. I feel somewhere within me I understand what he's trying to say. He could be listening to me playing in the greatest and thinking she hasn't got it at all. So I don't know. All I can say is how I feel. I feel I understand his language, and it's a very fragile language, and it's also very tender, impassioned, sometimes slightly crazy. I'm not a very crazy person, so I find the crazy element a little harder. But this word that he writes in all his music, innig, you know, tender, inward, it doesn't exist in German anymore, but and it's quite hard to put it out in a concert hall as well, I think.
Yeah.
It's very personal. So, and I read the letters, and I just think, I feel I understand the spirit somewhere deep within me. Who knows?
And then you went on to explore his wife, Clara Schumann, and
I
you've
did.
recorded. I think you've recorded all of her piano works.
No, gosh, no.
No?
I've recorded some,
Some
and
of
they're
them.
beautiful. They're really
Yes.
beautiful.
And what made you explore this repertoire then?
Well, I think it was rather under. When I started playing Clara, to be honest, not really many people were playing Clara. A lot more people do now. There's not a lot of solo piano music from her. There's some beautiful short pieces and some variations. The piano concerto, which is fantastically difficult, which she wrote when she was 14, which I did play at the Festival Hall this year, which was very exciting for me because I'd recorded it, but I'd never played it in public before.
Right.
And we played it with an all-female orchestra.
Oh, superb.
So it was all it was part of this Women of the World International Day. It was a lot of fun.
I love that concept.
It was a fun thing to do, and but the concerto itself, it's not a great piece. She wrote it when she was 14. It's fantastically difficult, and it's just full of so much promise. But you can't say it's on a par with this concerto because it's not. It is what it is. It's an extraordinary piece for a 14-year-old. I mean, for any year old really. But I think her piece, the piano trio, the piano trio really is a masterpiece. I have played some of the songs, so it's lovely music. It should be played more.
Yes.
But she was an extraordinary woman and more famous than in her lifetime by a lot of ways. So as you know.
Yeah. I'd really like to talk to you about your musical evenings of words and music together. I absolutely love this concept, and I think it should be put on more often. So how did you decide this concept? How did it come about? What was the inspiration behind it?
Well, there became sort of, I say, a bit of a movement in the 90s that people would chat about their concerts. Before we were all encouraged to talk about the pieces that we were going to play in recitals. And I actually took quite enjoying doing that.
Right.
So I would be playing these big pieces of Schumann, and then I would chat about the story behind. So I'd be playing the fantasy or something, and I'd say, and this is the letter that they wrote to each other, and people would come up afterwards and say, oh, that's really beautiful. It really made a difference hearing the context in which that piece was written.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's sort of what started the idea, because I thought, I can't read this very well. I was reading, off a printed piece of paper and not very well, in fact. And then I thought, well, I wonder why this is a way of making more of the letters and sort of weaving them into the music. And that's really how it started.
So do you have an actor in mind when you put the programme together, or the programme comes first and then you see who's around, who's available, who's suitable for it? That's
very much it, because I've only got 4 of these evenings. One of them, the Debussy evening, which was the most recent, that only has one actor, one male actor. The others have an actor and an actress, although one's not supposed to say actress anymore. 2 actors, one of whom is a lady. But the Debussy one just has one actor, and I must say that Brendan Coyle and Dominic West, both of whom do a lot of my shows, along with Alex Jennings, but they're all 3 of them fantastic. But funnily enough, Brendan Coyle, because he was in this show that's very popular, Downton Abbey, I'd watched this on the television and I thought, he sort of even looks a bit like, there's something about him, and although obviously I never met Debussy, I thought, oh, he'd be perfect.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing has happened.
Right.
And when Sam West has read Chopin, you sort of feel that he gets the fragile, nervy, angsty part of Chopin, and Harriet Walter to me is very much Georges Sand, and so I believe in people, but it's such a chicken and egg really, and often there's a person who looks absolutely nothing like that person, and is too old to read them or too young, but reads it with so much life and passion that you completely forget that they're not that person.
Right, yeah.
So you think you are with a composer, and I think it's like any talking books or if the voice is good and they can portray the words, they could be wearing a clown outfit. Well, that would be a bit ridiculous.
You started off with Beloved Clara. That was your first thing, which explores the relationship between Clara and
Robert Schumann.
And
the best letters, of course.
Letters. So how do you decide what to play? Because it must be quite difficult. There's such a huge amount of music. How do you decide?
Yes, and the interesting thing is, you could write all this again and have different music in all of it. It's, you know, that I sort of feel that the tone of the letter is quite, if it's a really impassioned, imploring letter, it's not really hard to find a piece that goes with that. And, you know, I have Robert, when he dies, Robert Schumann dying, you've got Brahms and Clara standing by his graveside, and they're never going to see him again. And she's saying, you know, I can't believe I've lost you. And I played Traumerei there. Now that seems really cheesy, but actually, in the, of course, Traumerei was not written. It's a very famous piece. It wasn't written for that, anything like that.
No.
But it just works in that
Right.
setting, and the audience feel the simplicity and the loss. It works. And I change the pieces.
I was about to say, do you have different pieces all the time, or do you keep kind of to a set format?
No, I mean, they do change because, first of all, I get fed up with playing the same pieces all the time. And secondly, I think, oh, let's just try that. You need to mix it up. Change the letters, change the text. The actor says, why don't we put this here or put that there? And then we're all thinking of different ways of moving it around. So they're all constantly evolving, and every actor brings in new things. And sometimes they say, oh, I was reading a book about Brahms, and have you got this letter? And I said, no, I haven't seen that one. You know, that's fantastic. Well, let's put that there. Let's put this. So we move everything around. Sure. It needs to keep it fresh, really.
Yes, and of course you've gone on to develop a Chopin list for the Debussy evening.
Yes.
And the Debussy one is the latest,
The Debussy one is the latest.
So what can we look forward to? What music can we look forward to?
Me on the stage with Dominic West.
Well, I was going to say, this
Poor
is
me.
I'm very envious.
It's really tough.
And this is the Wigmore Hall coming up.
Wigmore Hall I have coming up with Dominic at the end of December. And that's quite a challenging venue for the spoken word.
Right.
Actors find it's obviously the most beautiful training musical in the world. But because it's a long and narrow hall rather than more in the round, and the acoustic is very vibrant, great for music, they have to speak a little bit slower and has to be worked out well. It is challenging for the spoken voice.
Yes.
But it works well, and it's the right kind of audience size. You don't want too big an audience size because the intimacy gets lost.
Yes, I can imagine. So will you be playing all the famous pieces? Or
I will be playing all the famous pieces.
Lesser known ones?
Some of the lesser known pieces. But I mean, I think if you came to an evening like this and you didn't know anything about Debussy, I think most people in their lifetime have heard Clair de Lune. So of course I play Clair de Lune, and then some popular pieces like the Gollivant's Cakewalk and the Girl with the Flaxen Hair and all this sort of thing. And then on the flip side, I play all of Estelle, and pieces like Poisson d'Or and a couple of etudes and Lille Joyeuse. So there's a real mixture from the virtuosic, you know, Lille Joyeuse on this hand, and then the Girl with the Flaxen Hair, they're completely opposite. But it does cover his range from the very early pieces to the later. The later, when his style changing in the etudes. It's very interesting. I've done a lot of research about him. It doesn't perform in playing, I think.
Well, it sounds like a wonderful evening, and that's on the
30th of
December. Wonderful. And what have you got coming up in 2013? Recordings, concerts?
Actually, there are some very exciting things coming up in 2013, but because they're not 100% confirmed, I actually can't say them now because then you'd have to kill me.
Right.
Or I'd have to kill you, or whatever the saying is. So, watch the space really for next year, because there are some very exciting things coming up. Plus, more of the same. We're doing a lot of festivals and things next year with all these shows. And I will be touring with Brendan Coyle.
That's very exciting.
And hopefully he and I will also be touring to Australia, if that all comes right with his schedule. The invitation is there, so that would be very exciting. We'd have a weekend to think about, which would be lovely. But let's see about that one. And then some other exciting plans, so
great.
Watch this space.
And what does playing the piano mean to you?
Do you know, I just can't, not so much playing the piano, but I cannot imagine my life without music. I cannot imagine a life without being surrounded by this, my wonderful music. So it is my whole life. I can't really imagine a life without it.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Lucy.